In this video, we're going to talk about how to use the WordPress editor that's integrated with your GroupLife site in order to modify your home page and the various pages that make up your website. Again, note that this is specifically for the folks that have chosen to use the WordPress website editor. There is also a greeting pages component with some other templates that's discussed in another video. This one specifically focuses on how to utilize WordPress to edit your website. So I've logged into one of our sites here, and you want to note that in order to be able to edit any of the web content, you need to make sure that the user doing the editing has either the sysadmin, site admin, system administrator, or website administrator roles. Those roles are required in order to make edits. Those with the administrative roles can actually manipulate a lot more things on the WordPress side, but just make sure those roles are set up before you attempt to go in and have someone edit or you edit yourself. And so I've logged in as an administrator, and so I have that role assigned. I'm going to click on the configure button, and from configure, I'm going to choose WordPress Admin. And so what this will do is it'll drop me into the administrative side of WordPress. And notice I'm already logged in. I don't have to have a separate set of credentials. This pops me into the account with the appropriate rights and privileges. And so there are numerous videos out there that talk about how to edit websites using WordPress. This tutorial will not go into all those details. It will really just speak to some of the things that we've configured with the WordPress account that are maybe useful. And I'll go into a little bit about, if you're not familiar with WordPress at all, some basic things with navigating around. And so in this particular case, we have this the Centro Modesto, and I'm going to go to the main website. So this is the way the site looks to a user, to a person who visits the website for the first time or has it bookmarked. And so you'll notice here at the top I have a banner. This is my home page again. I have a banner. I have some text in the middle and some other text and different components. And all these things were added using this plugin called Elementor Pro. Again, there are also a bunch of videos out there that talk about how to use Elementor. This is not a detailed description of how to use it. It's just an explanation that we use Elementor Pro as the editor when when you want to modify your website. And so in here, if I go into this page, notice that I have two options here to have either the option to edit the page using the normal WordPress editor or to edit the page using the Elementor editor. And so I'm going to click on the Edit with Elementor button, and this will take me into the drag and drop tool for editing with Elementor. So this is the page in edit mode. I can go in and modify the text in the body here. Notice here that I can modify this to be whatever we want it to be. And then when we make those modifications, we just update, and our changes are saved. Here's a button. Buttons have different settings you can apply to them. You can change the text of the button here. Notice I can just modify that like that. I can also modify the link to where the button goes when I click on it. I can change other features about it, but in general, this is one of the components that you can add into any block. Now, notice with this page that I'm selecting things that have already been added to the page. If I wanted to add new components, I would click on this little grid looking thing here in the corner and then scroll down to all the different things I can add. Again, this is not a video talking about all the capabilities of Elementor Pro because we could spend hours doing that. It's only just to say that this is where I get components that can be dragged and dropped into my page. And so if I wanted to put an image in here, for example, I would grab this image, drag it over here, drop it where I want it, right there, and then select the actual image from my library that I want to choose. Now, either I can choose images from my library or I can upload an image from my computer. And then once that image is uploaded, I can go ahead and add it into the body of this web page. But in this case, I don't want this here, so I'm going to click here on this icon and right click on it and then choose delete. That takes it out. And also another thing to notice on this page is that it has sections to it. So notice that this is a section, and this section has different settings on it. So for example, it has an area where you can change the alignment, you can change the width of this section. In general, if we've given you a website that's been configured with a template, you don't want to mess with a lot of this stuff. But if you have people that are able to manipulate these things, who understand website editing, who can make changes to CSS and things like that, definitely feel free to modify this as needed. Other areas are very similar. Notice here there's a background, and the way the background is set in this section is I would choose the section and I would go into style and choose the background right here. I would go here to image, choose image, and that would change, or I can go in here and change the background accordingly. All right. If I wanted to add a new section to this page, I would go in here, choose this little box, determine the structure of my new section. Either it's going to be a single wide column, a double, 2 columns, or 3, or whatever. And I would click that, drop it into to the page, and then once that section is created, I can now go back to my grid and then start adding content to that section. Here's a text box that I just added a new intersection, so let me take that out of there. But say I want to add some text in here, just drop that text in there and then edit it right in here. It's that simple. And in this case, say I want to change the color of this text, I would highlight it and then choose style and then change the color right in here. Update. Click that update button and everything I just did went live. All right. So that's generally how you edit a web page. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to show you how I would create a web page from scratch. So I'm going to update this so that I don't have those modifications in place, and go back into the dashboard, and then I'm going to go to pages, and then I'm going to say add new. So when I add a new page, I want you to keep in mind that, again, because there is a default editor with WordPress, you're going to get the default layout and configuration for a page. Notice this does not look like the Elementor layout that we saw before. So with every page that's created, we recommend and we highly suggest that you choose the Edit with Elementor button. Again, that turns it into an Elementor page, and from that you can now begin to do a lot of those drag and drop things we were just talking about. Now notice that there's a particular default layout for the page. You can choose your style by going into the style for the page by going into this little settings button here and deciding what page layout you want to choose. And so let's just say I want to use the no sidebar layout, or I want to choose the portfolio layout. You know, I can choose any of these layouts. I would recommend playing around with a few of them to see which ones work for you. But in general, you can modify the general layout by choosing them from the settings button here at the bottom. Another thing I would just say about this is that by default, the pages won't show up until they're published. So you'd have to publish them once you do that. So if I wanted to publish this page, it would publish it, but note, it won't be in the menu. So I just created this test page. I'm going to give it a name just so that I know what it is when I pull it up. So let's call it, okay. So I created this page. I've called it Our Community. And again, notice that it doesn't show up in our menu. If I go back and refresh the home, just go back to the normal website. I go back in here. Notice that page I just created, although it's published, it's nowhere up here. So you may ask, well, how do we add things to the menu at the top? Well, the way you do that is you go back into the WordPress dashboard, and you go there by clicking on this little button here and choosing Edit Exit to Dashboard. And then once I get back to the dashboard, which is really the pages dashboard, I would then click on the WordPress button, and that takes me right back into the actual WordPress main administrative dashboard. And so to put that item in the menu, I would go to Appearance, choose Menus, and then on my main menu, I would just take that new page I just created, Our Community, and then I would check the box here. I would click Add to Menu, and now that page is in the menu, but it's at the very end, right? We don't want it at the very end. Let's bring it and put it underneath in the community. And we save. And so now if I refresh this page, I have in the community, and then I have our community, which is that new page I just created, right? So those are just some basics, probably some of the more important basics, creating pages, how to interact with the Elementor editor, how to log in. Those are really important things. Creating the pages in the menus, that gets you going with that. And I'll just say one more thing in this video. If you want to edit the top of the website here, say you want to modify the top here, like the information in the header or the information in the footer. Well, in order to do that, you want to go back to Edit with Elementor. And notice here, oh, I clicked too soon. Let me go back. Notice here that I have Elementor header, which is a header, Elementor footer. So I can go in, click header, and this allows me to modify the content that's in the header. And note that the editing of the header uses the same components as the pages use. So you can, again, drag images, drag text, or whatever you want as you're doing that. Same thing goes for the footer. When you're editing the footer, you'll notice here at the bottom that you can modify this just as you would any of the other pages, internals to the pages that are on your site. So that's the video. This one's a little long, I apologize, but hopefully it covers enough material for you to get started with editing your website.